This is session 40 of the Law of One, and let's get into what I call the cycle of creation today. Let's begin. This session, I decided to divide it again into two parts because I wanted to take my time talking and reflecting about a couple of things that, as always, we can extrapolate from the material that we get, and then have a whole different part for the rest of the session, because at the beginning we're going to get into physics and metaphysics, of course, because we're talking about the raw material. But we're also going to understand it from our side, from our space-time perspective. And then the session goes into the harvest process, transition into third and fourth density, and that kind of stuff. And then it goes out into cancer and so on. So we're going to cover that in part 2, which is really interesting stuff again. And I just wanted to not change gears in the same session so I can take my time here. And this is going to be part 1. We are going to go, there's nothing specific about this session other than the beginning of the question, so no personal material here like in the previous sessions to discuss, and that's it. We can go right into the first question that Don had, and he's saying, I thought that I would make a statement and let you correct it. I'm trying to make a simple model of the portion of the universe that we find ourselves in, starting with the logos or sublogos, our sun. We have white light emanating from this. This is made up of frequencies ranging from the red to the violet. I'm assuming that this white light then contains the experiences through all of the densities, and as we go into the 8th density, we go into a black hole, which emerges on the other side as another logos, or sun, and starts another octave of experience. Can you comment on this part of my statement? So Ra says, we can comment upon this statement to an extent. The concept of the white light of the sublogos being prismatically separated and later at the final chapter being absorbed again is basically correct. However, there are subtleties involved which are more than semantics. Okay, so let me explain the question so we are on the same page. Don is asking basically, what's the cycle of creation? If you see, he's going from the logos, which is the originator of the densities of consciousness. The originator. It is a portion of the grand central sun, and it's creating, as I believe it was session 28 where we discussed the logos. You know that the logos is a part of the creator that has, to an extent, changed the archetypes of the galactic logos that created also its own archetypes for every single star in the galaxy, which was taken from the grand central sun, which is the big logos. Big brother, big brother. We're all brothers here. So big brother again, now from big to small. Big brother gave the archetypes to the galaxy or the galactic logos, and the galactic logos switched them around, changed them, created its own parameters, and then all the stars are going to use that in its galaxy to also change them. So it's like a step down process, which each logo it's going to change and switch depending on what they want. So that's where Don's starting, because that's the experiential part of the creation that we have, the 7 densities, the octave. And from that point, he's going from our sun. That's why he went to say the logos, sublogos, our sun, and that's emanating white light. So he's interested in the physics of it, how this light becomes the creation. And we're going to go into that. Ron's going to comment on it. And that's why at the end, he says that it goes back to the black hole. That's Don saying this, and that is the whole cycle of creation when you think about it, because it's describing the manifestation of the creation through light, as we discussed. Again, this was 27, 28, and 29 are key for this understanding. So that's why I emphasized this at the beginning of book 2, which is session 27. That is very important for anybody who's interested in understanding this from the mechanics of how, according to the law of one and Ra, this works. So we have the whole creation in the 7 densities, and from there it goes back to the black hole, which is the unity with the creation. That's when we accrue spiritual mass, which we actually have discussed in the past sessions. And then from that spiritual mass approaching infinity, that's where we go back into a black hole. So that's Don's question, and Ra's going to elaborate on this. That's why they say at the beginning, the concept of the white light of the sublogos being prismatically separated, and later at the final chapter being absorbed again, is basically correct. So the white light being prismatically separated. So prismatically, 7 densities, 7 colors. Those are our 7 densities, from red, orange, the system, all the way up to 7 density, which is the gateway to intelligent infinity. And later at the final chapter being absorbed again is basically correct. However, there are subtleties that they're going to get into, and we're going to get into as well. So that's the premise of this question. It's a sort of long answer, so we'll take it step by step. The white light, which emanates and forms the articulated sublogos, has its beginning in what may be metaphysically seen as darkness. The light comes into that darkness and transfigures it, causing the chaos to organize and become reflective or radiant. Thus, the dimensions come into being. So, this is hypothetically, or in our imaginations, we can picture this. There is white light that is being emanated, and now this metaphysical darkness is what's called the female or the feminine creative principle, which is it's the womb of the creation, and light is the father. That's why this is a great moment to clarify something, because Ra and other entities of the Confederation refer to, of course, this is to metaphysical, mature people, or metaphysically educated people who are not, into bringing politics to metaphysics, about the father being why. Well, the light is male and darkness is female. That's, yin yang. So, in the same sense, that's why they use the word, father. Ra's not using it here, but I'm using it. In darkness, when they call metaphysical darkness, that's where light comes into play, and they create this marvelous 7 densities. So that is also when we, I at least do, when I meditate, I kind of focus on this, on my consciousness, really, which, when it goes down into the philosophical understanding of what consciousness is, it means it's emptiness, it's nothing. So it's similar to this darkness, metaphysical darkness that Ra is talking about, because that's the nature of everything, that's our mother, and then they say the light comes into that darkness and transfigures it. So they do their interplay, causing the chaos to organize and become reflective or radiant. Now this chaos is what we know as intelligent energy becoming more concrete into its patterns, and we're gonna get some into this, not as much as I would like, but we're gonna get into some of this, how this patterns are evoked in the metaphysical darkness. But that is the chaos that organizes. If you remember first density, when matter is becoming, it's solidifying, let's say, it's becoming, we have first density in timeless chaos. That is the nature of how intelligent energy works to create the first density and start the evolution, actually. That's just the nature of first density. And then it goes up, all densities are created at the same time. But the nature of energy evolving, it starts from first density, and that's I'm taking that this is, the same, I'm assuming the same type of chaos that is organizing and becoming reflective or radiant in this case. And thus the dimensions coming to being. Dimensions, to me, is just another word for all the densities and subdensities. I suppose that's why they didn't use the word density, because dimensions, as we'll get to, refer to every subdensity, infinite subdensities, but we don't have to go that deep. In fact, we can't. We don't have enough time. Even though time is an illusion. So they continue. Conversely, the blackness of the black hole, metaphysically speaking, is a concentration of white light being systematically absorbed once again into the one creator. Finally, this absorption into the one creator continues until all the infinity of creations have attained sufficient spiritual mass in order that all form, once again, the great central sun, if you would so imagine it, of the intelligent infinity awaiting potentiation by free will. So now we have, conversely, what happens, as they say, is that the black hole is absorbing all this light, and, of course, opposite to what our mainstream science is, which is based on fear that we're going to die and we need to exploit not only the planet, but apparently other planets and asteroids to keep on living. It's not enough that we're beating into submission planet Earth. We need to go and beat the hell out of asteroids and Mars, and we have all these plans. So sorry about that, I need to rant on it. Contrary to that, the black hole is it's the creator beckoning at us. It's calling to us. So that's what it means. It's not the ultimate death that we should avoid. In fact, that's what even if we don't admit it, we're seeking the black hole. We're seeking to become that black hole, because that is infinity coalescing again into, actually the creation coalescing into infinity. So that's what they're saying at the beginnings of the statement. Finally, this absorption into the one creator continues until all infinity of creations have attained sufficient spiritual mass. This is, I will speculate, and I think I'm not alone in this, that the whole creation needs to coalesce into the black hole. Now, I don't know how far I can go with my speculation and say that it could be local, because a creation can be an octave of experience here, locally, or is it the whole universe that needs to... it doesn't matter in the end, because once we enter that timeless state, then there is no waiting. We don't have to wait for, those of Andromeda, those are still in the Sagittarius constellation. They're still there, we don't have to. So no matter where we go to, or when we go to, this is just, and again, this is my human mind trying to give some sort of explanation to the ineffable of what is timeless state, which again has to do with consciousness. We can actually explore it in our own minds, or beyond the mind actually, if we're looking at a pure consciousness. But that is where we go to. And then when they say all the infinity of creations have attained sufficient spiritual mass in order that all form, once again, the great central sun. So yeah, now that I read it again, it makes sense that the whole universe, basically, all possible stars that are now going through their sequence and their planets and so on, they all need to finally reunite into one black hole, seemingly for us in space-time, but it is the grand central sun from the other perspective, and that is pure white light, pure consciousness, infinity, intelligent infinity. And now there is no more creation, there is just infinity, and at that point it's the exhale of the big inhale, if you will, or reversed, whichever way you want to see it. It's a continuous process. People may be, asking at this point, like, what's going to happen then? Well, it's a cyclical universe, so the fun continues for infinity, and of course, it's like a video game. I liked it. It's definitely a video game. Think about it this way. The purpose of doing this is not because, we're like rolling down an infinite hill, going round and round. There is experience. We've been talking about the creator experiencing itself so it can know itself. That's the whole point. We are experiencing ourselves, however far you have gotten into your conception of self, so you can know yourself. If you don't experience yourself, then you can know yourself. Physically, mentally, spiritually, you have to experience yourself. So the Grand Central Sun, the creator, the one infinite creator, is experiencing itself, himself, herself, I don't know, whichever you I guess I'm still affected by this whole political stuff. I need to go away with it. Himself, let's call him himself, period. It's just for practical purposes. So it needs to experience himself, so it can imagine the vastness of experience that this one collective mind that we are, the one creator, is experiencing, and we will achieve that. I think this is, let me go a little poetic here, maybe just inspirational. But think about our evolution through the densities until the point that we will bring up, just to call it a cardinal direction, we will bring up, or north, this beingness that we are, and we will experience the whole of creation along with, not alone because we're already the creator, but we become the creator so we can experience the whole universe as it is happening. This is an ecstasy that it's just unfathomable for me. It really is. I don't know, I can't describe it because I can't even imagine. But that's what's happening. At the end of that, when all of creation has been absorbed and all these archetypes that have been used infinitely have been retrieved, to use the word, into the one mind of the creator, then all of this will be used to create the new octave of experience, the new creation. Just like in the past, and this is why I say it's a video game, in the past octave, Ra explained, I believe it was Ra that explained that we didn't have the male and female polarity, and now we do. So we got that accomplishment. We got that, what do they call it? Achievement. We got that achievement and said, we're going to use that in our next creation, definitely. And that's where we are. So who knows what we're going to get. One of the things that we got, the veil was also, is new in this update. So you can even see it that way. See, I'm going, what's the word? Very mystic with my expression of how the inhale and the exhale of the creation goes this way. And then we go into the video game analogy where, we just create updates for the creation. But anyhow, I digress too much. So that is that part. That's just the cycle of creation. Ra keeps going and says, thus the transition of the octave is a process which may be seen to enter into timelessness of unimaginable nature. Like I said before, to attempt to measure it by your time measures would be useless. Therefore, the concept of moving through the black hole of the ultimate spiritual gravity well and coming immediately into the next octave misses the sub-concept of corollary of the portion of this process which is timeless. So yeah, I mean, in terms of measuring, what do they say? The concept of moving through the black hole. There is no moving. There is nothing. There is no time. That's why they say it, this way, because the transition of the octaves, the process may be seen into timelessness. The best way I can approach to this is to know that consciousness is not bound by space or time. Consciousness is actually everything. Consciousness is the whole creation. If we can reduce our perception to the most basic identity, if I can even call it that, it's consciousness. So consciousness is not, like I said, it's not experiencing anything. It's not a product of time or space. Consciousness itself it's its own thing. It's what we are. It's what everything is. And so, because it's not bound to that, it makes sense to reimagine our sense of self in a timeless state. Because consciousness is that. and we are that. So that's why in the process of us evolving from the illusion of separation, which goes from first density all the way to seventh density, mostly from second to sixth, then seventh density becomes almost like first density again. That's why it's called the octave. The next density would be the first density. And, you know, it's just the same thing. It's the point in the circle that started everything, you know, where you started drawing it. You know, it's the end and the beginning. You know, there is no end, no beginning, in any case. So when you reimagine yourself, and self with capital S, as consciousness, as everything, then you know that there is no time. And that is what they're referring to. And to attempt to measure it by your time measures would be useless. You know, it's like trying to measure, I don't know, water with a stick. You know, how many gallons do I have? It just doesn't. That's not the way it works. Therefore, the concept of moving through the black hole of the ultimate spiritual gravity well and of coming immediately into the next octave misses the sub-concept or corollary. Of course, you know, from one to the other, there is no measuring. It is already that. And that, I mean, I can't even attempt to describe that better. It's the best I can do. So hopefully that makes sense. In any case, it's just a cycle, and that's all that matters. And every time it gets better and better. So here we go. Question number 2. Don says, our astronomers have noticed that the light from spiral galaxies is approximately 7 times less than it should be, from their calculations of what their mass should be. I was just wondering if that was due to the increase of spiritual mass in the galaxies in what we call white dwarfs, and Ra says this is basically correct and is a portion of the way or process of creation's cycle. So, I'm going to speculate a couple of things here, and I mean there's not much substance here, but I just want to talk about it. First, the number 7 it's kind of, I just noticed it. Number 7 has an interesting connotation there, but I can make a connection. So if you guys can make a connection with what I'm going to explain, or whatever you can interpret from this, leave them in the comments, please. So Don is referring to the scientific measurement of light being observed by our instruments being 7 times less of what they calculate the mass of the galaxy is. So it's like there's a lot of mass, you know, and accounting from everything, you know, there is 7 times less. I assume they include black holes and so on, which is mass. But then Don is asking, you know, is this because of the white dwarfs? And how does this connect to spiritual mass is my speculation, or my question here, because he says, I was just wondering if that was due, meaning the lack of light, that 7 times lack of light that comes out of the galaxy, it's due to the increase of spiritual mass in the galaxies in what we call white dwarfs. So the spiritual mass, so this is my connection here. First of all, a white dwarf is a star like our sun. Most stars are like our sun, that have gone through their main sequence, meaning that they have gone through, at least from our scientific point of view, which I think is not complete, they have gone through the sequence of burning, quote unquote, their material, mainly being helium, hydrogen, then helium, and so on, all the way to iron. And because they're not massive enough to become a neutron star or a black hole, they become white dwarfs. They go through the expansion of a red giant, and then they shrink to the size of the Earth. So that is a white dwarf. A white dwarf is our sun's destiny, according to main science. It's going to expand, and then it's going to contract. The expansion will take possibly up to Mars or so, they say. That's how giant's going to be. And then it's going to collapse into a white dwarf, which is, again, the end state. That's why they call it the end of the main sequence of a star. It collapses into a white dwarf, and it still emanates light funny enough, Sirius, anybody in metaphysics and spirituality, with interdimensional beings and so on, they like Sirius, right? And we talked about Sirius actually not long ago with the plants becoming third density entities. These, I think Sirius B, this binary system, Sirius B is a white dwarf, so not too far from us. It's only Alpha Centauri, I think, is 4 light years away, so this is about double that or so, if memory serves. So we have white dwarfs, very common. But see, the thing is that scientists are accounting for the mass of the white dwarf, but not the spiritual mass. So because the star has gone through its life cycle, let's say, maybe, and this is my connection, because I would think the spiritual mass would actually create a black hole. But is there a black hole near a white dwarf? Maybe not, maybe yes, I don't know. Are black holes visible all the time in the sense of gravitational pull? I don't know. But there is a connection here that I see that has to do with the amount of white dwarfs that we have, which is a ton, and spiritual mass, which is the mass that we actually are metaphysically, all reuniting again with the Creator. So whatever that means, I can keep going, but I think it's boring enough for me to just talk about this stuff without making any connection. And like I said, there's not much substance, just me trying to pull, I don't know the saying in English, but finding the fifth leg on the cat. You say in Spanish or something like that. I don't know. Anyhow, next question is 340.3. Don says, thank you. I was also wondering if the first density corresponded somehow to the color red, the second to color orange, the third to the color yellow, and so on, through the densities corresponding to the colors, in perhaps a way so that the basic vibration that forms the photon, that forms the core of all atomic particles, would have a relationship to that color in the density, and that vibration would step up for second, third, and fourth density corresponding to the increase in the vibration of the colors. Is this in any way correct? Let me go into Ra's answer, and then I'll attempt to explain this. This is more correct than you have stated. Firstly, you are correct in positioning a quantum, if you will, as the nature of each density, and further correct in assuming that these quanta may be seen to be of vibratory natures corresponding to color, as you grasp this word. However, it is also true, as you have suspected but not asked, that each density is of the metaphysical characteristic complex of its ray. Okay, so this is actually a fascinating question for me, because as you can see, I am like a half-baked scientist or astrophysicist, or quarter-baked. I just love science prior to me getting involved into metaphysics. So to me, finding these correlations into the raw material is always fascinating. So I'm sorry, you have to bear with me. Alright, so Don is asking if first, obviously, yes, we have made that connection between first all the densities and our subdensities and the colors. We already see that. We see that in sounds as well. I'm sure we can find it even in taste. Everything is 7. Experience is 7. If you can put a number on experience and the word or the feeling, you can put it 7. 7 it is. All right. So we have that connection already. But see, Don is going really deep into this, and I love it, because he's saying perhaps so the basic vibration that forms the photon, that forms the core of all atomic particles. So there is a basic vibration that forms the photon. Okay, so the photon is energy that is vibrating in a specific pattern. That is the vibration in a pattern. It serves, and it's actually very accurate to say that these patterns are sacred geometry. And there has been a lot, I believe is, what's his name? I'm gonna butcher it. I think it's Nassim Haramein or something. He's He's a physicist that has found all this sacred geometry all over the place, and it's just, I mean, people like him, of course. It's not just like he is, but I think it's not Nassim Haramein, something like that. So geometry is at the core, literally at the core of every vibration, and this vibration, Don is asking, if there is a relationship to the color of the densities, and that vibration would step up. Literally, it's going to change, for each density, and this is going to get into very cool stuff. So Ron says that this is more correct than you have stated, because, and I can see, with the little background that I have in sacred geometry, vibration, like the Platonic solids are so involved here, because they are the basic vibration of all elements, and we can see that in so many things. I mean, David Wilcock actually has a very fascinating topic on this. I don't think he's made it public, I think it's under paywall of Gaia and under the paywall of his classes, which I actually took a couple of years ago, and they're just fascinating. The sacred geometry behind the Platonic solids and the elements is just fascinating. So before getting into that, let me just go to the raw material, where they say that firstly, you're correct in positum, a quantum, which is an amount of energy that can be measured for a specific field, if you will, as the nature of each density. And further correct in assuming that these quanta may be seen to be of vibratory natures corresponding to color, because the color is what defines the density. As you grasp this word, because color is just a clumsy word to define these vibrations, because they are vibrations. It's almost like saying, I don't know, texture is it's a thing. It's not. It's a vibration too. So, however, it is also true, as you have suspected, but not as, that each density is of the metaphysical characteristic complex of its ray. We're going to get into this, but that's the premise of it. There is a basic vibration that creates every single it creates everything, but it steps up, like Don said. It steps up in second, third, and so on. It becomes more complex in its vibration, and that's what we're feeling right now too, with 4-density energies. As we have discussed, since we crossed that threshold from 3rd density to 4th-density vibrations, whenever you hear spiritual people talking about, we are in 4th-density vibration, we're moving into 5th density. Well, it's not 5th density really. It's a whole misconception from my point of view and my model of reality. People say 5D. I think they're thinking, because we're going from the 4-dimensional aspect of 3 dimensions in one time, 4 dimension, 3 spatial, 1 time, 4D going to 5D, but in the model of the law of 1, we know it's as 4 density, and we're getting those vibrations now. So I lost track of that. But yeah, no, that's what they're talking about. Anyhow, I hope that makes sense. It's gonna make more sense now, I hope. Ra says, thus, in 1st density, the red ray is the foundation for all that is to come. Of course, it's the basic vibration. In 2nd density, the orange ray is that of movement and growth of the individual. This ray striving towards the yellow ray of self-conscious manifestations of a social nature as well as individual. 3rd density being the equivalent, and so forth. Each density being primarily its ray plus the attractions of the following ray pulling it forward in evolution and, to some extent, coloring or shading the chief color of that density. Okay. Woo! We have a good one here. First of all, out of all the dry concepts that I've been throwing at you for the past half hour, we can now paint it with a little bit more of beauty. Let's put it that way. Poetry. Actually, not poetry, reality. Let's put reality. What they're saying is that in so 1st density is the red ray of the foundation of all that is to come. Of course, that is like, here we go. Everything is spinning now. What are we going to do with it? And it's going to go into its own realization. It's going to create patterns that it's going to get together and so on. This is 1st density creating matter. The 4 elements acting together to create all that is pre-life as we know it, pre-sentient life. So In second density, the orange ray is that of movement. So meaning the second density orange ray is the vibration, like it steps up in vibration in terms of consciousness. Now let's bring the word consciousness into this, and it's going to make a lot more sense. Consciousness now is looking not only to realize itself, but to, like they say, movement and growth. That's why we don't see rocks moving. We don't see, well, water's always moving, but it doesn't have sentient life, but it is conscious. And second density actually is life in terms of movement and growth. There we go. It's not, rocks don't grow, except crystals. But then I'm getting into crystals and quartz and so on. But you can see the pattern here. So the pattern, or the vibratory pattern of the photon in this case, is looking for growth. It's making, think of it this way, it's going to be very helpful. Imagine the sun shining red light to the planet. That is at the beginning. There's not even a sphere yet. Energy is trying to find its way into creating the planet. This is first density. Now we have, and this we know from scientific measures, the chaotic nature of the solar system and so on. I think it's a lot more subtle than that, than just, like massive chaotic stuff, just bombarding and whatnot. I don't know. I don't think that way. So the planet finally coalesces into one sphere, and now it's prepared to that matter to move, because the sun is now going from red to orange. It's shining orange light. That orange light is going to make matter move. Water, minerals, air, fire, teaching all of this to create movement patterns. Combined, of course, with the logos, with the sun shining orange light. And then that's what they mean, they're going through movement and growth. There is a sub-logos at this point too, because remember Ra saying that a planet is a sub-logos at least at the point where it's in harmony with its second density beings. This is session, I really forgot, but it's probably, oh no, it has to be session 28, where we talk about the logoi, or the logoi, the logos and sub-logoi. So this is the planet actually now becoming sentient itself. Gaia is becoming alive. Now orange is going to create all the animals, all the plants, bacteria, virus, and so on. And then comes the part which we're going to visit in the next part. Part 2, we're going to discuss this in session 40, because they talk about this transition too. But I'm going to give you a heads up. Then the yellow ray of the sun shines upon the planet, and now humans start becoming a thing. That's why there's a very fast shift from animals, or the selected animals, which were the primates, into humans. And now the yellow light is going to create new patterns. Now check red, orange, and yellow light, all lights actually, as colors. These colors being upgrades of the vibration of the photon that is impulsing or propulsing or pushing or spiraling consciousness into a new state. That is what's happening. I hope this is making sense, because sometimes I review it in my head and I'm like, I don't know, I'm going all over the place. So that is what they say, striving towards the yellow ray. It's talking about orange ray. Striving towards the yellow ray of self-conscious manifestations, human, of social nature, as well as individual. That's humans. Third density being the equivalent, and so forth. They go on. Each density being primarily its ray, plus the attractions of the following ray, pulling it forward in evolution, to some extent coloring or shading the chief color of that density. I'll say a couple of things more about this, and then we'll move on to the next question. When they say that each density primarily its ray, so remember we were talking about, let's talk about yellow density, because that's where we are right now. Yellow density, yellow color. The sun is between yellow and green right now. So yellow is, what do they call it? Each density being primarily its ray. So third density is yellow, but also green ray. It's like pulling it. think about the galaxy rotating, right? And there is a sort of a layer, a big layer, green layer, awaiting the yellow. There is a yellow layer here too. It's almost like a pie, right? And the planet is moving and crossing that threshold in I think it was actually 1936 or around there. That threshold. Now we're getting a mix between yellow and green. And before that, of course, the attraction was, this is the galaxy moving. This is just me putting it in some way. This is not how it works. But it's pulling, consciousness is pulling, the green is pulling the yellow. And that is the vibration that they're talking about. That's why Ra keeps talking about vibration and the changes in vibration of the photon. And so the attraction of the fallen ray, pulling it forward in evolution, and to some extent coloring or shading the chief color of that density. So it's almost like green is shading. It's been through the whole 75,000 year cycle that we have in third density. Green has been kind of shading our yellow third density, because we came from, say, the lowest portions, let's call it lowest portion of yellow, up to the green portion, which is now. We are in green. The sun is shining green now. So the basic vibration of the photon has changed already. And we are feeling that. That's why you feel all this chaos. A lot of people may say, well, if, it's going spiritual, why is this happening? And rightly so, it's a good question. Why is all this stuff happening? Because fourth density is shining and it's disturbing a lot the consciousness of people. But like Ross said, that's irrelevant. What's happening, it's happening. It's how you perceive it is what's really important, and how you are contributing in general. So, my God, I can go on for a while here as usual. But that's what they're saying. Green is shading. It's been shading it, and now it's full green. So, anyhow, I hope that makes sense. Please ask me any questions in the comments. I'll get to them. I promise. If this didn't make sense, or if you have any question about what I said, because I can really go all over the place. And you can see why I dedicated this first part to this couple of questions. All right, so Don's going to say next 40.4, then the bodily energy centers for an individual would be, assuming that the individual evolves in a straight line from first through to 8 density. Would each of these energy centers or chakras, be activated to completion if everything worked out as it should? Would each be activated to completion and greatest intensity by the end of the experience in each density? Yeah. Ra's going to say, hypothetically speaking, this is correct. However, the fully activated being is rare. Much emphasis is laid upon the harmonies and balances of individuals. It is necessary for graduation across densities for the primary energy centers to be functioning in such a way as to communicate with intelligent infinity and to appreciate and bask in this light in all of its purity. Alright, there's more to say here, but first, what is Don saying? It is, he says, assuming that the individual evolves in a straight line, which doesn't happen, would each, or is very rare of course, would each of these energy centers would be activated to completion if everything worked as it should? See, here is a little human part of Don saying, if everything worked as it should. There is no rule. There is no, oh, you didn't work as you should have, so now you are banished, or whatever. Creation is a game, and it should be treated as that. If you lose, you learn. Whenever you lose a game, you learn. Assuming you're, playing a game that, any game, you learn. I mean, that's, any gamer should know this. So it's not like, you fail the test. Would each be activated to completion and greatest intensity by the end of the experience in each density? So the question is a little bit off in that sense, and then Ross says that hypothetically speaking, this is correct. Hypothetically, that's how, it's meant, say, to work, but that is not the purpose of it. See, it's almost like, what analogy can I use here? If we go to the forest or whatever in nature and we come back, we're supposed to go and come back. That's the purpose. But you know, that's the idea. But the purpose is really to enjoy the trip, and that's what it is. So in terms of graduation, they say much emphasis is laid upon the harmonies and balances of individuals. See, that is the most important part, because that's how you experience most of everything, you know, by achieving these harmonies and balances. It is necessary for graduation across densities, across all densities, third and so on, for the primary energy centers to be functioning. Primary energy centers are red, yellow, and blue. So those are our key points to be working, you know, in such a way to communicate with intelligent infinity, to appreciate and bask in the light, in this light and of its purity. So our red, yellow, and blue, which we have described in the past, I don't need to go into them. They need to be functioning properly, right? Is that what they say? They need to be functioning in such a way, not properly, in such a way. So they need to be balanced, you know, they need to be in harmony with whoever you are. And that's another thing. Everybody is different. Everybody has their own way of balancing, because there is no one balance that we all seek. You know, there's no stereotype that we need to follow. So that is that's the first portion. There's more that Rod's going to say. So, however, to fully activate each energy center is the mastery of few. For each center has a variable speed of rotation or activity. The important observation to be made, once all necessary centers are activated to the minimal necessary degree, is the harmony and balance between these energy centers. And this is the best part of it. To fully activate each energy center is the mastery of a few. You know, it's like, how do you activate completely? It's not about activating completely, like the percentage, I suppose, you know, that you can activate it. It's about activating them and balancing them and being in harmony. So this is a great example. Who you have been has changed over time, but you can see that you have achieved harmony and balance in many portions of your life, assuming that you haven't had a perfectly balanced and harmonious life. I don't think anybody has, especially in this planet. But you can see that you have, even though you've had different activations, you've had different expressions of each of the energy centers, you have achieved a sort of balance, which is where you say, you know what, I accept myself. The way I am, this is how I am. And you should achieve this all the time. However your energy centers may be, accept them, and you will actually activate them even faster and more. It's my take on this. Because, see, they say the important observation to be made, once all necessary centers are activated to the minimal necessary degree, meaning that at least, you know, you say for you to open or activate your blue energy center, you have to open your green, your heart, so, and activate it. So once these three are activated, then the harmony and balance between these energy centers is what needs to be sought, basically. And harmony and balance at all times. That's, I mean, do I need to even say that? And that is the way of, you know, of achieving eventually, you know, fully activation of all energy centers, whether it be in this incarnation or in another density. It doesn't matter. You know, it's a game. We're playing this to find that balance. That is the name of the game. If you are Gautama, Siddhartha, and you activate everything and you leave, then, you know, that serves as an example of, you know, it brings out a philosophy, which we know as Buddhism, right? So, okay. Now we go into the next question. Don says, thank you. Taking as an example the transition between second and third density, when this transition takes place, does the frequency of vibration which forms the photon, the core of all particles of the density, does this frequency increase from a frequency corresponding to second density or orange, the color orange, the frequency we measure for the color orange, to the frequency we measure for the color yellow? This is, yeah. Okay, where am I going? Here. So, yeah, Don keeps going. What I'm getting at is, do all the vibrations that form the density, basic vibrations of the photon, increase in a quantum fashion over a relatively short period of time? Ra says, this is correct. Then you see within each density, the gradual upgrading of vibratory levels. I think we discussed this already, in the past questions. I don't know why Don asked this. Let me just review. Taking as an example the difference between second and third density, when this transition takes place, does the frequency of vibration which forms the photon, the core of all particles of the density, does this frequency increase from frequency corresponding to second to the frequency we measure? Maybe I explained this and Don didn't ask it in the previous question, but this is what I said, with the colors shining, the sun shining the colors light, on Earth, and how it changes, from the vibration that is assigned to orange to yellow. And there's a more interesting question that we go into now with this. And then Don says, this is a guess, with the frequency going from second to third increase from the middle orange frequency or average orange frequency to the middle yellow frequency or average yellow frequency. This is very scientific of Don. Ross says, this query is indeterminate. We shall attempt to be of aid. However, the frequency that is the basis of each density is what may be called a true color. This term is impossible to define given your system of sensibilities and scientific measurements, for color has vibratory characteristics both in space-time and in time-space. The true color is then overlaid and tinged by the rainbow of the various vibratory levels within that density and the attraction vibrations of the next color density. So we have already the foundation for this, so this is going to be very simple. Okay, so the frequency that is the basis of each density. First, Don is asking if, at that time, say when we transition from second to third density, if the vibration of second density is from average. Let's say the average vibration goes into third density average vibration, meaning there is a spectrum and the middle, it's like it transfers into the middle from orange to yellow, second to third. And Ross says that this query is indeterminate. You'll see why. This term is impossible to define given your system of sensibilities and scientific measurements, because we cannot sense this vibration of changes in consciousness to the level that also implies space-time, which is the evolution, physical evolution, as we're seeing that right now, and we have seen in the past. We see this all the time also in second density, but let me not get there as evolution happens. But from second density to third density, there's a lot more involved than just the evolution of physical. There is the time space or metaphysical evolution as well, which creates, of course, the let's call it the room for our soul to be. We are in time space as well right now, so that exists because there is a different vibration now metaphysically. Now the true color is then overlaid. True color, when they say true color, is what I mean when the sun is shining, orange. And orange is not a color that the sun is shining, is a vibration, is a consciousness upgrading pattern that is being, we're feeling it like music. Let's call it music. The music is changing and we are dancing. Wow, that's a beautiful way to see it, actually. Molecules, DNA, everything is dancing to the tune of the density. Should I put it that way? Now, when the tune changes to yellow, there are other things within the harmony and the symphony that is being played by the logos for these entities to vibrate or dance. Same word, right? When you dance, you're vibrating. And that's the purpose of it. So that music that is being played now is that is the true color. True color is orange music, yellow music, and now green music. The true color is then overlaid and tinged by the rainbow of the various vibratory levels within that density. That means that, remember, so we are yellow. We're all yellow here. However, we have 7 chakras, 7 energy centers, and they are red, orange, yellow, and so on. And that is the rainbow that they're talking about. It's overlaid and tinged by the rainbow of the various vibratory levels within that density. Okay, so it's yellow and we're tinging it, and we're also, overlaying. We're overlaying it with our tune, our specific tune of sub-densities. those are the sub-densities of this density. Our chakras, our energy centers are flying, going, they're in that pentagram, musical pentagram, where all the notes are played. That's where we are, you know. And it actually makes sense, because pentagram being 5 is the 5 energy centers in between the red and the violet, which actually is what is important for evolution, and then whereas, you know, red and violet are kind of static in that sense. So yeah, I mean, it's music being played, and we are, you know, we're tinging it with our presence in this this rainbow that we are. And then the last part, where they say the attraction vibrations of the next true color density. The attraction vibrations of the next true color density. It's like the music that we hear in the far, you know, distance. It's that music that is attracting us, that we are dancing here in the tribe. You know, our drums and, you know, our instruments, our chord instruments. I forgot what they say in English. But anyhow, we have music playing here, the tribal music. And then we see angelical music, you know, or we hear angelical music. That is the attraction vibrations of the next true color density. That is 4 density. It's attracting us, the harp of the angels. And heavy metal too, of the angels as well. I can imagine some, I don't know, we gotta come up with a band name for 4 density heavy metal. We have to bring heavy metal to 4 density. I don't care. So in any case, that's it. You know, that's my best explanation of this. This is how we went from the cycle of creation to how the creation is actually evolving in this way through the colors, as Don was saying. Now, you see, the next question, I'm just gonna tease you with the next question, even though you can go read it, but I wanted to cover this. How long was the time of transition on this planet between 2nd and 3rd density? 1.5 generations, I believe. Is that correct? Now, I'm going to tease this because I made a subtle mistake, I believe. I know I recorded this. I didn't record this in English. But in Spanish, I made a video, and I think, didn't I do it in English? Probably didn't. And I said that I wasn't sure how long was the 1.5 generations. And I completely forgot that it's explained here in the raw material. And, you know, it's a spoiler if I say it, so I'm just gonna leave it for, you can go read it. I'm gonna leave it for the next video. But yeah, I wanted to leave that because this is going to get now into the transition, you know, of harvest here, and now we're going to physics, and you can see I already took an hour. So you can see how passionate I am with just the physics and metaphysics now marrying together, you know, the male and the female getting together, and now just beautiful. So in any case, that's all I got for the first part of session 40. Like I said, I already explained what this is going to be for part 2. But conclusions, I don't have much to say here other than, you know, reflecting upon the nature of evolution, and to know consciousness is the biggest thing that just comes to mind, you know, inevitably, right? You know what I mean? Consciousness is always present. So for us to always keep that in mind, that we have this 7 density consciousness in us, and that we're always, this is where Oriental philosophy always points at us. You know, it's you know, going and finding who you are and what you are. And when you realize that, you say, all right, you know, I don't have time or space. I am everything. This is it. You know, you are it. Datvamasi. So, this, just reflecting upon that, just as much as you can. That's my best conclusion in this video. Like I said, there's not much substance other than, you know, what we have. It's a lot of entertainment with all the tools that we have, like I said in one of my videos already. So, thank you so much, as usual, for watching. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you viewing and watching this. If you have any suggestions, of course, please let me know in the comments. There's a bunch of links in the comments too for the books if you don't have them, and everything else. Just go read. I have a bunch of resources there. And that's it. I have nothing else to say, but, you know, I love you. Thank you so much for being part of this, and I'll see you in part 2 of session 40.